Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and we're back on for a In the Hot Seat. So we've got a great guest to join us today, which is Brad Field from Alchemy System Integration, and we're going to turn our eyes to his past, his career journey, and what he's doing now at Alchemy. So let's get Brad in. How are you doing, Brad?
Hi Lee, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, so we like to start right at the beginning. So tell us a bit about your childhood, where you grew up, what you did at school, what your parents did for a living. Just give us a bit of a background view of you and where you started.
Okay. So born in 1970 at Good Hope in Sutton Coldfield, and actually lived around 2 miles of Sutton Park my whole life. When I was 3, my parents split up, and so I've lived with my stepdad, Ray, until I left home. And we lived in Sutton and New Oscar. So I went to school at New Oscar school. And then when I was around about 10, we moved to Streatley. So I went to Linden School. I was the new boy there. Didn't know anyone, no friends. And then,
do you think that separation when you were 3 made an impact on your life?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
In what ways did it affect you?
I think you get a different relationship with your parents then, don't you? And it's funny having one who's a stepdad and then one who's the real dad. I mean, he's still around. He still lives in the same house. So I tell you what was great was at Christmas I used to get loads more presents than everybody else because I had 2 dads and 2.
So there's a positive in everything, isn't there?
It was great, yeah. So I ended up going to Streatley Comp, and went from there.
So what were the key things you enjoyed at school at Streatley Comp then? Any particular subjects, sports, sciences? What was your
technical drawing and metalwork, and I got an A in metalwork as well. So I really enjoyed that. One of my biggest regrets at school is in our last year project was we could make what we wanted. So I made a steam engine, only a little static thing. We were waiting for the teacher to get a spring for the valve, and he never showed up with his spring. So I ended up leaving it at school, and it was never actually finished. And it's one of the things I look back at and I'm like, I wish I'd picked that up. I wonder what it looks like now compared to what I think it looked like.
Yeah,
it actually ever worked.
Yeah, I did something similar. Part of my because what we did what we used to be classed as metal, it was classed as engineering. So it was a combination of design and manufacture using steel materials. So I did that, and technical drawing I did as well. So I really enjoyed that side of things. I was always taking things apart, putting them back together, and I'm sure you were the same.
Oh yeah, the old cassette players and everything else, took them to bits. And there's an old story where I'd got a toy phone, plugged it into the mains, and blew myself up. I think I was about 5 then.
At least you got past 5.
Huh?
At least you got past 5. You could have been a stopping point.
Yeah. So I was that child that was messing with everything. Causing me mum a nightmare.
So with those subjects in mind, did you have a plan when you were like 14, 15, coming up 16 for what your future would be?
No plan whatsoever.
So what happened next then? So you got to you did your would it be O levels or GCSEs then? Because they were changing.
It was. I think we were the first ones. Some O levels, some GCSEs. We were pretty much the first where it was swapping around. Got to say, I wasn't particularly a model student.
No.
Probably was in trouble quite a lot. But yeah, it was at that time. I think the teachers were striking. Because of the conditions in school, so we went on strike as well. But it was that time when the transition was between the O levels and the GCSEs. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that it was that time period, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. So my stepdad Ray, he suggested I go into electronics because it was a new big thing, and so that's what I ended up doing.
So where did you go then for electronics?
So I first went into YTS, That's what it was at the time, £27. I don't know if it was a week or a month now. In the training centre in Aldridge called Incom. That was really great. It was just like metalwork lesson every day, so I loved that. And then I got a job at a company called Telenova, and they supplied walkie-talkies and paging systems for, well, the biggest customer was Sainsbury's, so it was before mobile phones then.
Yeah.
So we used to started off setting up the paging systems, and then progressed through. They sent us to college. We got communications, national diploma thing. Can't remember what it is now. Learned the theory of the communications and radio and that kind of comms technology. And I think that stood me in really good stead actually in the rest of my career.
How long did you? How long did you spend there then?
I stayed there until, well, I had a little break in between. So I was there from 16 to 19. And then I left my job and everything and went with my girlfriend to go island hopping in Greece, who since became my wife. And we spent the summer in Greece then, around the islands, having a really great time. And that was interesting. And then we spent a month on the train, then coming back through Europe, visiting all the people, dossing down on their floors of the people that we'd met on the islands. So in all the different countries, Germany and Italy and Holland, and it was fantastic experience. Yeah. But even out there, set up a little business because we had £20 a day. Our budget was to spend. We were camping, got the rucksacks, and I started doing hair wraps that you might have seen them do on the beach. So. Went up into the mountains on the bus. Bought all the.
I've never gone for it myself. I don't know why.
You'd look good, don't you? So we bought all the braids, the thread, and wrapped. Got a piece of cardboard that's got every inch was 100 drachma. Little candle, and sat outside. Well, I did a deal with the shopkeeper actually to sit outside his shop. That if we could sit outside, we'd give him some money because he'd got a nice little wall and he attracted a load of customers for him as well. So yeah, that was a really good time. And then I went back to Telenova again to carry on with that work. Yeah.
Were you doing the same job when you went back to them?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously, as I was there, the 8 years, 6 years. I progressed and learned more. So in the end, as I say, to start with, it was setting up the pages and testing them. But in the end, then I was fixing walkie-talkies to component level. So they'd come in. It was a very good model, actually, business model, because everything had to be repaired in 24 hours back to the customer because they were kind of mission critical. And so we'd have a delivery coming in the morning. It'd be processed and then we would repair them that day and they'd be back out again that night for the last post to be at the customers the following morning. Was repairing walkie-talkies up to that point then.
So what happened after that 6 years then? So were you looking for a different challenge?
So what happened was my dad had a business making polythene bags. Making black sacks, and he made millions and millions and millions of black sacks. His customers were MOD, NHS, Leyland, I think it was at the time. Things because of my sort of ability with my hands, good with my hands and technical ability, I went there to sort of be look after the machinery and keep that up to date. But it was a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because at that time, as you can imagine, the polythene bags was a bit of a commodity industry, and it all went to China and India, and so the business was declining really, and it got to the point after a couple of years there where we couldn't afford to repair the machines because we weren't making the profit, but the business was just dying and dying and dying. So in the end, we had to close that. And so then I started on a new challenge.
So what was the new challenge then?
So from there, then what did I went to work at a company called Alchemy then, who did I became a service engineer for. They looked after the booking systems, so it was all satellite fed and into a processor, and then out to the TVs. But yeah, that wasn't a great job. I was fed up with being in the workshop. I didn't want to be sat at a desk anymore. I didn't quite like that lifestyle. So this job suited me. I was driving around. We was out in the field, but it wasn't a very challenging job. It was more driving between this place and that place and just swapping TVs. Really, there wasn't really much challenging work to be done.
Box swapping, so no real diagnostic work.
A van full of tellies at that point. So a good friend of mine, then he was working as a project manager for an AV installation company. And he said to me, do you want to come and work for us go subcontract and come and work for us? So it was through an agency, but working for them. And I did that for several years, loved it. Used to do a lot of M&B pubs up and down the country, must have done hundreds of M-Barins, fitting all the music systems and like the TVs in the pubs. But then
so it was mainly hospitality then in pubs.
It was hospitality. Yeah, it was. There were some big video walls that we did at some of the gyms. Fitness First, it was. So down in London. But that was all the sort of work we were doing then.
Okay, and how long did you do that for?
And then did that I did that until 2008. And then, as I say, I was a subcontractor. So in 2008, there was a recession. And at that point, then the pubs stopped refurbishing. They used to refurbish them every 3 years and replace everything. But they stopped refurbishing them. And so because it was an agency, we were out of work. I didn't pay the mortgage for 3 months, and I'd got 3 kids under 6. It was a bit of a nail-biting time.
Yeah. And so we were talking before that some of these things that happen to us like this are character building. So they help us either become better as individuals or break us apart, don't they? So I'm assuming it built resilience because you're still around, you're still working at it. So what happened during that 3 months? What did you do?
I just realised that I had to take control of my own destiny, and I couldn't rely on other people to give me work. And I realised something about the world. You've got to go out and find your own work, and to be satisfied and to earn a living. I couldn't rely on other people, because even if you've got a job, and I wasn't a subcontractor, even then you're at risk, because these companies can still make mistakes and go bust, or it's not a job for life. It's not guaranteed. So I decided that I wanted to go out and do it for myself. So that's when I first set up my first company, which was
that called?
Audio Visual. Huh?
What was that called then?
It was called Sensory Audio Visual.
Sensor and audio visual.
Sensory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sensory. Yeah. And what was the focus of that business then?
The focus of that business was in supply and installation of audio visual systems, and as I started off in the hospitality, retail and leisure sectors.
So using your experience with the pubs and things and going after a similar market.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to get off the ground and get your first client?
I got started pretty much straight away. So I was thinking back, because it's a long time ago and I haven't thought about it for long. But yeah, got going pretty much straight away with a contract for traveling the country and replacing all the skyboxes in. I think it was the Comfort Inn brand. It was a brand of hotels anyway. They were upgrading their skyboxes, so I invested in some expensive test equipment and bought my van and and then set up doing that. And then I think then the next customer was Benito Brow Bars.
Oh yeah,
Marco Benito. Yeah, so
yeah. I've met Marco because you've invited him
yeah,
over a couple of times
yeah.
to
I
some
think
events
he's my
that we've
oldest
been to
customer.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you do for him?
Some digital signage in their concessions for the nail bars. We were fitting music systems in pubs, restaurants, bars, hotels up and down the country. But yeah, it was difficult because I had not been in sales, and it was all very new to me. Writing an invoice was a challenge back then because I'd only ever worked on the tools, fixing walkie-talkies or replacing tellies, if you know what I mean. So that was all very much an uphill struggle, a learning curve. But yeah, we got there in the end, and just carried on doing that. So
yeah, I think a lot of people take it for granted what happens behind the scenes. You know, where the customer comes from in the first place, and all the processing and paperwork, things like invoices, purchase orders, all those bits just happen when you work for someone else, don't they?
yeah,
But when you set up on your own, you have to do everything, don't you? And also have a process for it to make sure that all the things happen.
Yeah, make sure everything happens and it gets done. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what happened with that business then? How did that progress?
It progressed okay. It progressed slowly, but I didn't mind that. That was part of the plan because I wanted to learn as I went. But then we were doing well at 2019. Looking at
That's an ominous date, isn't it? 2019.
Well, you know what's coming.
I have a feeling you're going to tell what 2019 was.
Yeah, well, it was 2020, so I'd got two biggest orders in my order book for February. I'd invested a load of money in a demo suite, demo equipment, new website, lots of printed material to post out, even handwritten envelopes, and then all the offices shut. So what we'd done was, as technology developed and the video conferencing became more accessible and worked more successfully through broadband becoming faster, there was a lot of development on that, and so we were finding that I was selling more and more of that. And back then, to set up a video conference system, you probably did need an expert because you'd have a camera, microphone, loudspeakers, and a monitor, all separate components that needed to be combined. And we were able to do that for our customers. You know, we were finding that was quite a good market. But then in lockdown, nobody was going into their offices, so people were sitting at home using their laptops, which is fine, but they didn't need us to go and install a video conferencing system in their offices or their boardroom. So that business failed. I had to wind it up in the end into 2022. So,
it's quite interesting what the actual COVID period did, the lockdowns and things. It killed off a lot of the hardware related big style video conferencing systems people had in suites where there were many thousands of pounds for the equipment and stuff, and people started to move towards software related systems. Like Zoom was a big one at the time. There was a number of others in the US. Blue Jeans became very big, and a few others, and some of the telephony platforms started to it. Ring Central became big in doing video conferencing using software. But again, Microsoft did really well. You know, Teams started to become quite a big thing, and it is today. But I think one thing I saw is it actually opened up to all of the employee base, whereas the only people doing video conferencing originally was like the senior execs, sit around a boardroom and chat with some people at the other end, and that's how video conferencing was. Now people do it every day. You know, they use it as a standard tool to communicate with colleagues, communicate with customers, and I think that's changed really what we do in that space dramatically, hasn't it?
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, look at how we're using it now. We're using the technology to run this call and do this video webcast. It's had a huge impact, but we're finding now as well. So during that lockdown period, whereas I say you'd have these individual components, this is then when the video conferencing soundbar came out with the built-in cameras, built-in microphone, built-in loudspeakers, and you just plug it into USB. So that part of the technology was taken care of, but it's become a lot more accessible. So a lot more people are buying that, and so we're finding that's a really good market for us at the moment. It's very popular, and it works very well. It's a very successful system.
So out of the ashes, what was formed? Was that Alchemy?
Yeah, Alchemy System Integration. Yes.
Yeah, so that came out
during
of the
that time as well. The system integration comes about because of there's more than just audio visual. So it includes the control for the whole room if needs be. We can integrate the control for the whole room. So whether that be the climate, lighting, curtains and blinds, security, all those things can be integrated into one system so that it all works seamlessly together. So that was part of the reason where we got the system integration part of the name as well, because it's not just audio visual systems anymore. But yeah, so we still work very well, but it's a lot still work very well with business, but the trend has changed where people are spending a lot more money on their offices and having them fitted out in a higher standard. And so we're able to integrate that equipment into the fabric of the building and hide all the cables and work with interior designers to get cabinetry made and just make it all look really nice. So instead of having
driving that?
Cables,
is that them trying to encourage staff back in, or why do you think they're going? Or do you think it's the fashion now to have these very plush offices? You know, what's driving that change?
I think the plush offices and the nice environment, is staff retention. Because I think that the climate's changed for employees now, where employees are in a lot more, got a lot more to say, a lot more demands on their employer, and I think employees are trying to make workplaces a much nicer place to be, which I think is the right thing to do. But also, it is fashion, but instead of it being fashionable to paint walls white, people are having slotted paneling with acoustic materials built into it, which really helps in a boardroom, and it looks nice as well. It's a bit like the biophilia as well, lots of plants and bringing the outdoors indoors. I think it's a lot more well-being. It's a lot feel good for the staff that work there.
So Alchemy, you're doing very similar things to before, around the audio visual side of things, a bit slightly different in the video conferencing. So I'm sure mistakes people have made, and you've had to find ways to resolve those mistakes. So give us maybe 2 or 3 things that customers try to do themselves and made a real pig's ear off.
We see it quite a lot, and that's good for us, because people come to us and ask us to put it right, but quite often there's a big display on the wall with the camera sat on top of it, and you end up a lot of the times looking at people's bald patches because the angle's too high and it's looking down.
You weren't thinking of me while you were saying
that. That's right. And you're just not getting anything like a natural sort of environment. The camera's in the wrong place and it's just up too high. And yeah, so there's that. And then so we're able to put the camera in the right place, you know, and set the angles and do the measurements and fit it all in where it needs to be. And the other thing is the audio pickup from the microphone. So we've been working with a customer who we fitted out a beautiful boardroom for them recently, and they're trying to they're just doing another smaller room, but they've been and bought a microphone online and plugged it in, hung it from the ceiling and plugged it into the PC, and they can't hear anybody because it's just not built for that. That's not its purpose. So being able to help with the acoustics and the proper microphone pickup, we can get microphones that can pick you up from 6 meters away now. Perfect, you know, perfect pickup, and they can be intelligent microphones as well, so they can actually trigger cameras to follow you around the room, so you get perfect audio from them. But they're really clever, so you can use them for a lot of other sort of features within the boardroom. Yeah, cameras too high is the biggest one.
Yeah, but the audio, they use interesting technology because the beamforming technology a lot of microphones use was actually developed for sonar for submarines, wasn't it, originally? It was how do you work out which direction the target is by utilizing the sounds from different sensors and creating what they call a beamform. And that's where it all came from. Now we have it in microphones that just do audio in a room. Yeah, and it can work out where you are, the distance you are away and everything, can't it?
Same as satellite navigation. It beams to 2 points, picked up at 2 points, and so it triangulates the position so you can find out exactly where you are. Same way your eyes work.
Yeah. So stereo, we calculate distance because we can see 2 images and we can see the differential between those 2 images, can't we?
From each eye, that's correct. Yes. Yes. So that beamforming, the intelligent microphones, is really good technology. I mean, we can mute areas where there's noisy. So we've got one project. There's a big printer in the space next to the conference room. And we were just able to just tell the microphone to mute the noise that's coming from there. So yeah, it really helps. It's really good pickup, and the distances are good, but it's very flexible in what you can do. You can like I say, you can have the camera follow you around if you're walking around a room, doing a lecture, and the camera will follow you. So yeah, there's some really cool technology out there now. Really cool technology.
Yeah. So tell us some of the key projects you've done recently that people might be interested in, that they may want to do themselves, or would be quite interesting anyway.
So we got a recently finished one in London, client in London City, been overlooked across the road from the cheese grater. I can't think what its proper name is now. It's right next to London Bridge.
Yeah.
And it's called the International Centre for Sustainability, and it's as the name suggests, but it's an international sort of focus organisation where they're trying to reduce waste and improve sustainability, but mostly in India. It's an Indian guy who set it up. He sort of said that it's okay, England or the British Isles, if we did our sustainability, we might have a 2% impact. Whereas India, if they educate them and they bring their sustainability up, it's a 20% impact because it's such a huge place. But so for them, we've done 3 different rooms, 3 very different sort of applications, but all using very similar technology. So we've done a podcast room where they would have a number of guests that are having a conversation or an interview, and there's a camera focused on each guest and a microphone for each guest, and that is then controlled from a video control desk, where there'd be an operator actually running the meeting and switching between who is in view or an overview of who's there, which microphones are on and off, and then that streams out on all your popular platforms out, so people can watch it as podcasts or webcasts, record it as well, so that they can download it later on. And then, but a big screen with prompting on there for what the discussion is. So that's one room. And then in the next room, they've got a boardroom set up. So they can have
traditional video conferencing type piece.
Video conferencing in the boardroom, yeah. So that's got a big touchscreen display, so somebody can present from the front of the room to the people in the room. But it's also got video soundbar for video conferencing, and that's really easy to use because there's a touchscreen panel. It's like really user interface, like intuitive. So because they rent these rooms out, it's not always the same people that use it. It's like I say, focus groups, and so anybody can walk into that room and they just need to press a button and it starts the meeting. The Teams meetings, put it into the calendar, and they don't need to do anything else. Just press the start, and away they go. They're having a video conferencing call with the far end there. And then the other room is the seminar room. It's for Q&As, presentations, people standing at the front of the room. They can walk around. Again, we've got a video operator, so there's a control desk that switches the microphones. There's one of these intelligent microphones above the actual stage, so that picks up all the people on the stage at the same time, so they don't all have to wear individual lapel mics or holder mic. There is a handheld mic to pass around the audience for audience participation, and there's 2 motorized cameras, so the video operator can change the next shot, the next view of what he wants to stream out, get that queued up, and then switch the camera over, and then he's got the other camera then to zoom in on whoever, change the image that he's sending out. So that works really well as well. So yeah, that's a very good system there.
I understand you've done a community cinema project recently as well.
We're working with them on it. We haven't finished it yet. But it's a community cinema. Sorry, it's a 22-meter room, and it's a multifunction room, cinema, civic hall. And they use it currently for plays and bingo and knitting and different things. And there's another revenue stream. They wanted to fit it out as a cinema. So yeah, we work with them. There's community cinema. There's professional cinema. It's called digital cinema, and those show your Hollywood films, directly as they come out. So you're talking the Odeon, the IMAX. And those have got a very, very tight encryption system, as you can imagine, so that nobody else can watch it. And then the community cinema, it's as good a quality with the surround sound and the high definition pictures, 5.5 meter screen. And then, it's called a film bank. And then, so it's a couple of weeks after the initial release, they can get their films through Film Bank. It's a lot cheaper for a community cinema than it is for the main cinema. But what they also want to do is it's National Theatre Live. So there's a lot more venues now are having actual plays or live theatre, and they're streaming them. And so in these other venues, they can receive those streams and play them on the stage for ballets or theatre productions, all sorts of interesting stuff. So yeah, that's quite interesting. It's a good project, that is.
Yeah.
We did Centric Academy recently. So that's the building firm. Well, no, the property agents, and they've got multiple offices. And they were finding that they couldn't recruit the right staff, so they wanted an academy where they can do their training. So a very similar setup to the ICFS is that we've got a giant screen at the front, it's a 3.5 meter projection screen, and then the lecturer's got a lectern to stand that can address the audience talk to the audience, and he's also got a camera, so he's been filmed, and then that can be broadcast to anyone else who's on the academy, in the academy, who wants to learn. And then again, he can walk around in front of the screen or in front of the room, and the camera will follow him around as he's presenting. And then with all that technology there, it seemed foolish not to use it as a video conferencing as well, so we can see the far end. So there's another camera, another microphone. The room turns 180 degrees almost. The camera's points at the participants in the room, and the microphone above that table there, and they can use the same projection screen to run video conferencing calls. And again, that's all controlled from a little touchscreen keypad, so it'll mute one mic when the other mic's in use for video conferencing, or we can set different scenes, presets for the cameras. Again, and it's just like on, off, which video conference or lecture sort of format they want the room to be in. And then, all the clever stuff in the cupboard underneath does all the changes.
And I think the key thing is ease of use, isn't it? So it's
very
easy for people to use, because you don't have technical people in these sessions. So you need someone who can just come in, press a button, everything comes to life. Press a button, start streaming if it was doing a stream.
That's absolutely that is my biggest motivation. Actually, is ease of use, because right at the very beginning when I first started, and I was in the networking club, and we were at a hotel. They just literally, this is probably about 10 years ago, they'd literally just had a new AV system fitted, projector and a screen, and amplifier, microphone, and the person presenting went to the front of the room, plugged their laptop in. I think it was even VGA back then, not even HDMI, and opened the cupboard where the amplifier and everything else was, and they were just faced with a sea of buttons and knobs. They were literally snowblind because they didn't know what they were looking at. And
so you need a degree in rocket science to be able to turn it on.
When there's a room full of 40 people staring at the back of your head and you're looking for the on and off switch, you just get sweaty palms and start to panic a bit. So in there, they closed the cupboards, put their laptop on the table, and just went, can everyone gather around the laptop? And so it was at that point, I'd realised that everything had to be really easy for anybody to use. And so even if it just means the remote control that comes with the projector, we can trigger the screen to come on at the same time. We can trigger the inputs, so it does just make it really easy for anyone to use. Or if we're in a situation where it's a bit more complicated and we need to use a touch screen, that's the whole plan as to why we would lay out the screen so that it was really easy to use for anyone. Because, like you say, people can't afford for an engineer to go in for a 2-hour meeting sometimes, and they certainly don't have them employed full time. It's an overhead that people can't have. So we just make sure it's really easy.
Yeah. So we've talked about the kind of things you do. It's everything audio visual, especially tight integration, also ease of use, video conferencing, presentations, podcasting, webcasting, facilities like you mentioned before. So, but what's different about you to any other audio visual company that they'll come across? What do you add? What's the value that Alchemy and Brad, the chief alchemist, bring to people?
Well, I like to think that we work for our clients, that we go out to find out from them what exactly it is that they want to achieve. We'll interview our clients first, and so then we'll design a system around those exact needs then, so that they get what they want, so that they get a quality system that does all the things that they do need it to do, but none of the things they don't need it to do. I like to say we're like Jaguar Land Rover. We're stylish, safe and capable. We're not Rolls Royce, because unless you want it, but we don't supply crystal glass decanters and walnut dashboards, because you don't need that. But if that's what you want, we're happy to provide it. But I try and make it like it's a cost-effective system that does all the things that you need it to do and none of the things that you don't. So we're not wasting money or your resources on other features that you don't need. Also, I really try to buy British where I can. Obviously, that's not possible all the times. And I think the only British manufacturer of TVs is Goodman's, which I wouldn't sell to anyone. I shouldn't have said that probably. But
we can't edit that because it's live, so you're stuck. Anyway,
Japanese televisions. So, huh?
Yeah, based on what you've heard so far, this is to everyone else. This is Alchemy's website, so it's alchemysi.uk. So if you want to know more about what Alchemy does, you can go onto the website and get a view from there. If you want to look Brad up on LinkedIn and see a bit of his career history and all his contact details there as well, it's LinkedIn and it's Audio Visual Installer Birmingham. So, grab his details there, maybe make a connection. And also, we've got Brad's email address. So it's brad@alchemysi.uk. So if you've got all those details, you can get hold of Brad and tell him, go through that interview process and find out exactly what you need. And Brad will hopefully put that forward for you and give you an option. Another thing is, if you'd like to, tell us about your career journey and promote your business as well, why not drop me an email to lee.cassidy@tactiletechnology.com and join us on a Monday afternoon and go through where you started and how you became the success you are. So join us for that. So any last things you'd like to tell everybody? Because we're just coming up towards 1:45. So what any last things you want to tell people about you, about Alchemy, or anything you've done that would is quite important before we close down?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just saying, as one of my main things is trying to buy British, and I work really hard to keep the economy in this economy. Things like displays and televisions are generally Japanese for good quality. But yeah, there's some great British brands for audio, switching, video, control. So we use them where we can. They're cost effective and they're great quality, good service, good backup. If anything ever goes wrong or there's any questions, there's always somebody there to speak to instead of having to be in some kind of ticket system. But yeah, it's, as I say, we just make sure we try and everything's hidden, all the cables are hidden out of the way, and try and install everything to the fabric of the building. I really hate when a little bit of cable's dangling down underneath the telly. I can't believe that anybody would actually leave it like that. Why don't they just tuck it away? I'm often going around other people's offices tucking the cables up beyond the telly when I'm not even there to do any AV, just there for a meeting.
I think it's difficult sometimes if that's your mentality, isn't it? You want everything neat and tidy. You want to go and tidy things up, don't you?
Yeah. First thing I do when I walk into a pub is check out what music system they've got in there. From them, isn't it? Kind of like I bet you do that with cameras, don't you?
Yeah, every place you go in, you're looking up. Oh, it's Vision. Oh, it's Axis. Oh, it's Vicada. They've invested in a good technology.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end. So there's a couple of things that we always do at the end. One is I always ask, what's the best meal you've ever had? What was it? Where was it? And why was it the best meal? So what comes to mind then, Brad?
I've had a lot of nice meals, and I do love a curry. But
yeah.
I think the whole experience for the best meal I ever had, we were on holiday in Greece, a little tiny island called Folagandros, up in the mountains, sitting outside, sun was shining. It was my 21st birthday. And we
a couple of years ago.
It was a while ago, but fried goat.
Oh, yeah.
Just goat and chips. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything spectacular, but if it's like really good quality, and again, sometimes it's the environment you're in, and the people you're with, or what you're celebrating as well. It just makes it, doesn't it? And it impresses on your mind and keeps.
This restaurant was famous for it. It was like because they would stew a whole goat. I don't know if they did it every day, but that was their thing. So it was really fantastic food. I knew exactly how to do it, but the whole environment, the whole thing, it was just a wonderful day, wonderful experience.
And then the other thing that I normally ask is, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Probably coming on here.
Really? I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm quite shy, really. So doing this was a bit of a challenge for me. I mean, I've done parachute jumps and I've done the 3 Peaks challenge and things, but yeah, this probably caused me more nerves.
Well, doing something adventure is putting yourself out of your comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're outside your comfort zone, it's an adventure, isn't it?
This was definitely outside my comfort zone. Even though I do this sort of thing for a living, I don't like going on camera myself.
I found that very strange, and especially ladies don't tend to like to go on video conferencing. I remember over years, and it's mainly they don't like to see themselves. But really, you don't have to look at yourself. You should be looking at the person you're talking to.
Spend the time looking at yourself.
But yeah. I think some people are very self-critical and they look at themselves and they're judging themselves, or is my makeup right? You know, what's my shirt look?
Wasn't my appearance so much as what I might say.
But you know, that I think that affects a lot of people. But thanks ever so much for joining me today. It's been great to learn about your journey through your career and through life, and also learn how you got to Alchemy and what you're doing there. And it's really interesting. I get to see you more often. Each week we hear about some of the projects you're working on, but not everybody gets that opportunity. So thank you very much for that. Make sure, if you're interested in learning more, use Brad's contact details and contact him. We're also going to put some comments in LinkedIn, YouTube and things. If anybody's got any questions, put them in there. If you're asking about a particular technology or a way to do things, I'm sure Brad will be very happy to help. So do that. So if you can stay on afterwards, Brad, when I shut things down, and we'll just have a quick catch up for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everyone. And see you again next week.
Thank you, everyone else.
Bye then.